morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right, we're gonna try that one more time. Thank you, Brandon. How's everybody doing this morning? Good morning, everybody. As you probably heard, this is the Athletes in Tech panel powered by Cisco. So I'm gracing the stage with these illustrious people. So I will give them a quick introduction. Again, thank you for being here. One thing I will encourage, we are in tech, so most places they tell you to silence your phone, so we're gonna do that. But also if you wanna take notes on your phone, I would say take notes, and I always give this word of advice, and I'll do it before we start speaking, is if you wanna connect with anybody, make sure you take note of something of detail when you talk to them. So that when you talk to them later on, say, okay, classy, I loved your suit, and you said this. But that's just a piece of networking that I say it resonates more with the person that you're connecting with. So, of course, as he said, connect LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, Facebook, everything. Send a message, but as you send that message, remember, also add that detail. And that right there will show that person that you're listening to what they are speaking about and that you're intentional on that connection. So without further ado, again, Athletes in Tech panel, thank you everybody. This is the Athletes Unite Conference. We are in Atlanta. We are taking over the Marriott Marquis today, so everybody have fun. Again, I'll start over here. Actually, I'm gonna start with this guy. So let's talk about Cleo Cooper. As a former collegiate and professional athlete, Cleo found his way into the tech sales industry. He is currently a customer success manager at Cisco, and in this role, he helps Cisco customers adapt and utilize our WebEx platform. So we'll go here. Jasmine. Jasmine is a project manager in the service provider industry at Cisco. She played volleyball at NC State, go Pack, Raleigh, and graduated May 2020 with a bachelor's of psychology. She's been working for Cisco for about 2 years now. Kareem. Kareem has been in the IT industry for 12 years. He graduated from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, where he joined me, with a bachelor's degree in computer information systems. Kareem's current role as a systems engineering manager. He leads a team of systems engineers who are people-focused technical sales professionals who provide technical direction and business guidances to Cisco's key customers and partners, also head of Americas. So we're gonna add that too. Classy has been working at Cisco for over 7 years. She's a second-generation Cisco employee and considers Cisco her second home. Her mom, Nicole James, where we at? I see it, there you go. Worked at Cisco for over 22 years. Classy is an operations manager with a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her goal is to create a pipeline of diverse talent into the technology workforce. So again, people to communicate with, connect with, and I guess we'll get started. So we're gonna start to the right. Kareem, Mr. Corbett, do you mind telling, I guess, a little bit about yourself, a life story, and how you got into your role you are today?
Yeah, so like Derek said, graduated from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, born in North Carolina. A lot of the people up here today are some of my close friends that I've known for a long time. I've always been interested in tech, so I grew up being around my brothers, and all they did was, mess around with computers every day. So, you just want to be like the people that you be around and be around the people that interest you and do what you do. So early on at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, I was fortunate enough to get an internship while still in college. So I was able to garner an internship for 2 years at the city of Greensboro, where I became a computer hardware technician. I then got promoted to a junior network engineer, and then I was a network engineer before I graduated in 2012. So I say that to say, like, that internship gave me 2 years of experience, and then I graduated with 2 years of experience with my degree. So I was able to then go out in DC and become an IT consultant, where I garnered even more experience. So, that kind of, I would say, like, a lot of people don't, necessarily look into the internships that their schools provide, but it is a very valuable tool in order for you to, garner experience early on and then graduate with that experience and then use that to leverage and start your IT career.
There you go. And what people don't know about Kareem is we used to have a basketball play where I would set a screen and the point guard would throw it at the rim and he'd bang it every time. So he's
been
very,
throwing,
very modest. Yeah.
As he just did right now, he's been throwing me lobs for years. So.
There you go. Cool. So Jasmine, would you mind telling us a little bit about your path and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So growing up, I played every single sport known to man. Being 6'1", I kind of came with the territory. And then when I went to college, I decided to major in psychology, which is not the normal route for people who work in IT. So I wanted to focus on being able to build relationships and focus on networking. Unfortunately, at State, there wasn't really like a clear route for psych majors, so I had to go out of my way to figure out what I wanted to do outside of college. So I went to a bunch of career fairs that had nothing to do with psychology. I went to business, I went to pretty much all of them that were outside of psych because I wanted to get a good little taste and experience of, I guess, what else I could do. And I actually met someone at church who worked at Cisco, and that's how I got into Cisco.
There you go. Connections are important. You never know. You never know where your connection is going to be. So I love that, and here you are now. Also, I've watched some film with you too. Now, her and her sister, wow. So we'll say that again for another day. So, Classy, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your path?
Yeah, I guess my path started when I was like 7 or 8. I used to do my mom's PowerPoint presentations and coach her up on how to present in front of executives. She used to say too many times, and so I'm like, Mom, you can't say your PowerPoint looks a little ugly. Let me fix it. That was like the type A control freak in me, but for me, I was blessed to, 1, be from Silicon Valley, and then 2, both of my parents are Black in tech. So my dad is a computer technician at the VA hospital, and my mom worked at Cisco for over 22 years. So although I was playing basketball, I always was a tech nerd. So when I experienced my career-ending injury, I told my parents, okay, I need to find a job. And so it's a testament to, who you know and not what you know. And my biggest advocates are my parents, and they also happen to work in tech. And so my mom introduced me to an amazing woman, and I just met her, showed her my resume, which was not great at all, but she fell in love with my personality, asked me if I wanted to work at Cisco, and then within a week she hired me. And I also started working at Cisco fresh out of my career-ending injury. I had a leg brace and crutches, went in for my interview, and got the job, and so I've been at Cisco ever since.
All right, and what y'all may not know is go look her up. Definitely a pit bull. Definitely a pit bull. I mean,
Fights all the time.
Fights all the time. That's what she said. But if you look at her stats, literally stats in every category, and that's how you know you're influencing the game. So, Cleo, Mr. Cooper, great choice of suit. May I ask your path and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So, unlike Classy and Kareem, I was just that guy. Never grew up around technology. I was that guy. Played football, basketball, baseball, the MLB, NFL, NBA. That was kind of my goal. I didn't have a option B. It was go pro or go home. So I say that to say, it's you kind of just got to reach out to your peers. I started after I had a career in the injury, playing in the Arena League. I kind of went through that depression phase where it was like, what's next? Because all I knew was how to throw and catch a football. So Kareem and Derek, obviously they're good friends of mine, but they were in the tech industry, and they know me. They know me very well, so they know that I'm a personable guy. I'm a likable guy, and at the end of the day, people are going to buy from who they like. So I say that to say that's kind of how I got my foot into the tech industry. So just building those relationships, and it all come together.
There you go. And random story about him. So I was visiting him on one of his collegiate games, and I stopped at a Huddle House. That's how you know how country Emory and Henry is. It's a Huddle House, not a Waffle House, a Huddle House. And I go in there, and I'm wearing his gear because I actually have more of his college gear than he does. But I walk in and say, "You must be Cooper's friends. You must be Coop's friends." And I was like, "Yeah, we come to see him play." And he's like, "Oh, we call him hands. We call him hands because literally you throw him a ball, he's going to catch it. If you got a hand on it, he's going to catch it." And then the funny part about that is he also played quarterback, so he knows exactly where the ball should be and then how to receive it. So appreciate that. So a question for everybody, and again, I'm going to start over here with you, Mr. Corbett. A lot of people think you have to be the smartest in the room to be in the IT industry. What are some of the things that differentiate yourself, or what would you say kind of to that testament?
So yeah, so that is a normal thing that's said, but to be honest with you, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I'm relentless in finding information. And I feel like a lot of us in sports are relentless in honing our craft. So if I'm in a room full of, all the people in here, I'm more of an observer. So I know Boone, he's a personal person. I know Classy, she came dressed, she's intelligent. Jasmine here, she's quiet, but she's a sneaky one. And my man Coop, man, he's a man of many talents. So, but I observe that and I use that the next time I come into a room. So I'm more of the person who, I'm watching film, I'm watching game tape, and I'm sitting back and I'm using that information to then better myself. And then I'm relentless in finding that knowledge. So if somebody asks me a question that I don't know, I'm like, okay, I don't know the answer to it, but I'll get back to you. Those few days that I'm getting back to you, I'm relentless in getting that information. So I feel like you don't have to be the smartest person, but you have to have the tangibles. You have to be able to know how to find the information. You have to be resourceful, and you have to have that drive to be out there and go get it. So I feel like, that people say you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Yeah, that's true. You just have to have the tangibles.
I understand that. So if anybody doesn't know us, Kareem and I are complete opposites. So I am the person who leans on somebody like Kareem to find the information. I'll ask anybody in the room, can you answer this question? He's the type of person that will go on YouTube, go whatever, and literally research that and then come back. So it's good to have a friend like him. So Jasmine, what would you say to that? I know you're in a different piece, a different side of, the conversation with Cisco. So what would you say to that as far as the thought that you have to be the smartest in the room to be effective in your day-to-day?
So when I first started at Cisco, I started at a PM cohort. And again, like I said, I majored in psychology. So when I first started, I was very nervous. I kind of went through imposter syndrome. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically like you just feel like you're just not supposed to be there. So it was like a weird change of pace, because in sports you're always the person that's the go-to. It's like your job to be able to perform, and it was very hard at first, but I learned quickly that it's not about being the smartest in the room. It's more about the connections that you make, being able to reach out and ask for questions when you don't know what's going on, and kind of just accepting not knowing and accepting the unknown, and kind of just being comfortable with the uncomfortable, and kind of just rolling with the punches. So I feel like you don't have to be the smartest.
I hear that, because literally I've been at Cisco for 7 years. I still learn something new every day. And what I want to iterate on that is people help who they like, right? Sometimes if the same person comes knocking on your door and they want to grow, you can tell that they're eager for information or eager to learn. So always be that person who wants to be teachable and coachable. We're all athletes, right? And that's one of our biggest assets, is that we're coachable and teachable in our day-to-day. And people will literally gravitate you and will, I would say this, people love to flex their knowledge as well. So be a sponge, learn something new from everybody. Literally from this panel, I'll take away something from each and every person and everybody in this room that I've had interactions with. I literally learn something new every day, and I try to incorporate that into my next engagement or my next, interaction. So, Classy, is there anything that you would like to put on that? Or, I know, again, we're all in different segments, so what would you say to that?
I would say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Ooh, okay, talk there.
Because you should always want to learn, you should always want to grow, and you can always learn from someone else. Whereas someone might be really technical, another person might have more project management or organizational skills. So that's something that I always told myself, because when I first started at Cisco, similar to Jasmine, I had imposter syndrome. Although I got my job, I didn't feel like I belonged. And that's when I decided to go back and get my MBA, because I felt like I should probably leave tech, go be a women's basketball coach, coach because that was easy for me to do. I knew how to play basketball, I knew how to coach, but I didn't know how to be uncomfortable. So I had to really lean in and being uncomfortable, and then also relying on others around me, asking for help. And then I started to realize when I got my MBA that I actually was doubting myself a lot. But again, being around brilliant people allowed me to continue to grow. So that's how I always feel. If I'm in a room where I feel like I'm super intelligent, I need to be in a different room because
Right.
it's also a great way to always like humble yourself and know that you need to learn and grow more.
Good points. Cleo, how you feel about it? Yeah.
So to answer that question, you 100% don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Again, I was that guy, straight athlete. So me crossing over into the tech industry was already like a risk. You know, I reached out to Boone like, I don't know if you want me at Cisco, man. I just found out what IT stood for. So you definitely don't have to be the smartest in the room. In my role, I'm on the phone constantly with IT managers, IT directors. So off the top of my head, I already know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. So I try to build relationships with my customers and, you know, these IT managers, IT directors. And obviously now we're in a virtual world, so, you know, the majority of our calls are at home. So I try to, you know, people have props and backgrounds and things like that. So I try to pick like a background or a prop that they have and kind of, you know, initiate that conversation, and that kind of eases me into, you know, my Cisco track. So 100% don't have to be the smartest in the room, and I've learned that, you know, throughout, you know, my time in the tech industry.
Love that, love that. All right, we're gonna start back over to the right. Now, my question is, there's a lot of people in here, this is the Athletes in Tech panel. So how do you get into tech, or what would be your background, or what would be your advice for somebody that's looking to get into the tech industry for whatever capacity they want to? How do you prepare yourself, or what advice would you give?
So to kind of piggyback off of what we just talked about, being the smartest person in the room, you really don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You got to leverage the resources that you have, whether it be information that's being given to you from your college, an internship, externship, whether it's knowing the right people and networking, putting yourself in positions like coming here to the AUC, and then also leveraging your network. So who's your mom's best friend who works in tech? You know, who's your dad's best friend who works in tech? Well, you know, like Cleo said, I know Derek, he works in tech. Let me go talk to him real quick and talk to him about how should I position myself to, you know, gain more knowledge or better my resume so then I can be that person that can apply for that job and get that interview. So I would say that you got to leverage the resources that you have, whether it's an internship, an externship, your friend's mom, your dad's mom, your best friend. That's generally how you can get in. I mean, of course, you know, you got people who are super smart. You got people who are, you know, smart, and you got people who are very resourceful. There's no dumb or stupid people in the world. You know, I don't believe in that word. So I believe in you either resourceful, you're either smart, you're super smart, or you're a jack of all trades, and you can use and leverage all of those things to get to where you need to be.
Perfect. So on that point, I got to give a shout out to Paul Stewart. So I didn't know what I was getting into when I interviewed for Cisco. However, when I went into the interview, he was there, he was helping out, and we started talking about Millbrook, and he went to Garner. So we started talking about one of my basketball coaches was like, oh, you know him? Oh, you must be a good guy. And then from there, it literally clicked. So it's really all about relationships to start, but you do have to make sure you're prepared for that conversation when they get down to the numbers or what your value proposition is for yourself. So what would you say, Jasmine, to kind of getting ready, or, you know, background, or, you know, if you're trying to apply for a job in the tech industry, what would your advice be?
Well, the way I got my job is literally going to church and meeting a lady who worked at Cisco. So I would just say, like, putting yourselves in situations, like, not, like, going out of your way, going into, like, I went to business, like, career fairs, like psychology, like, just putting yourself in situations where you can be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because every day at tech, like, you learn something new, like talking to a customer, you know, you might deal with someone who's like having a bad day and they might snap at you, and obviously you're going to be uncomfortable in those situations. So kind of like throughout college or like throughout the day, put yourself in something that's a little bit uncomfortable and make yourself comfortable. That way, when you're in situations like that, you're kind of ready for it.
Okay, prepping, practice, right? Practice. We're gonna switch gears. By the way, we got about 10 minutes, so think about 10 minutes before we start asking questions. So think about your questions, think about who you wanna point to, and ask them questions based on what they're talking about. But I just wanna get your minds kind of on that. But yes, what was that? Yes, go
If
Classy.
you want to work in tech, go to the career fair. We have a lot of technology companies there. That was intentional. So
There
you
you
make
go.
good money in tech.
Yes.
So that is a plug. And I think, Kareem said it earlier, that's why you come to events like this. That's why I put this together, because I know a lot of people think you have to be super technical to work in tech. None of us, except Kareem,
Yeah.
are technical. None of us. We're
Yeah.
not coders. There's plenty of software engineers out there. What they need are operations managers, sales specialists, program managers, and within those roles, you do not have to be technical. You just have to be agile. You have to know how to communicate. You have to be a good team player, all of the attributes that we possess as athletes. So if you want to work in tech, go to the career fair, go get you a job, go get to this bag.
There you go. And I was going to say, exactly. So everybody here is coachable, teachable. Again, you are taking the step right here. The fact that you're here means you are taking the first step to be what you want to be, if that's the tech industry is what you want to do. So a question for you, Cleo. What would you say is your unique selling proposition? What about you makes you you? Or what do you, when you walk into a room, how do you sell yourself?
So I'm just a competitive spirit person, which is why I'm in sales. I don't take no for an answer, kind of like what Kareem said. So that's just me. I'm just competitive. I'm not taking no for an answer. Simple as that.
All right, Classy. How do you feel? What is when you walk into the room? What is the one thing that you would say Classy is this, or what's your unique value proposition, basically?
I think my parents were onto something when they named me Classy, so that's my USP, okay? But I also think that I'm a good person to just sit back and learn, and I think being also, like, I'm an empath, so that's my USP. Like, I can kind of read the energy in the room and kind of just, like, I guess be a chameleon in it, and I'm a hard worker. Obviously, putting together this event was no small task, so I definitely put my all into something when I'm really passionate about it.
So what I heard there is you have the ability to adapt. Adapt is a strong word. Literally read the room and understand who you're talking to, understand what you're talking about, and adapt to the conversation or the flow of the room, and you'll be successful. What would you say, Jasmine, when you walk into the room, who is Jasmine, or what is Jasmine?
I want to say
So-
approachable and relatable. I feel like being able to relate to anyone and have your foot in the door and make a connection I feel like that's what I am good at.
Got you. Okay. Reem, what would you say?
I think I said a little bit earlier, I'm relentless, and that in so many ways. I may be the quietest person in the room, but I'm relentless in what I do. So if I don't know an answer to something, I'm going to find it. If I'm not the best in something, I'm going to be the best. So that's kind of my mindset on, how I approach things. Like when I first started off in IT, you kind of start off in like a service desk role or a help desk role, and if I see somebody who got 10 tickets, I'm like, man, I'm about to double that and do 20. Like, that's just me. It's a competitive nature, but it's also relentless in being the best at what you do.
I think that's literally you put anybody, one of us, up to a challenge, and we're going to execute. And I think we're going to execute flawlessly. We may have a little hiccup, but it's going to be 120% towards that. And I think people really understand that, and people will give you more tickets, as you will, because they trust you. They know that you ready, you going for it. Now, this is the question that I have to ask. I'm going to start with you, Jasmine, since you have the microphone. What is the most rewarding part of working in tech?
I feel like the most rewarding part of tech is kind of seeing the future and seeing how we can make that possible.
Okay, yeah. So we definitely talked to the C-suite, me in my role, about transforming. And now, as we see, the pandemic has transformed everybody a little bit faster than than we anticipated, or most people anticipated. So now you're starting to see that transition into like cybersecurity. People are working from home. So how do you make sure that your information is taken care of and safe? And then your, telecommunications, again, the WebEx team, we're making sure that we can have meetings in San Jose from Raleigh, North Carolina or Atlanta and literally feel like we're in the same room. So that immersive piece and that collaboration piece is really the future. And I always say this, I'm a Marvel head. I love comic books. So, when you look at the Iron Mans and all the Avengers and everything, that tech came from somewhere. So it's there, it's possible. It's just a matter of us adapting and adopting it and then working towards that because, you start to see TikToks of people with laptops that don't exist, but it's right there. Think about the Dragon Ball Z days. Think about, now I'm really nerding out, but that's what we do. So about that, how has the pandemic affected maybe your day-to-day or how you work in tech or the way you work?
Has not affected at all.
Yeah.
When I moved from California to Atlanta, I was already working from home, and I think that's the beauty, even to your previous question, like when we work in tech, we can work from anywhere, and I work specifically for the collaboration business unit, so we're all about being able to take your meetings no matter where you're at, and so I was already able to work from home before the pandemic, but what I was able to see was how our technology impacted those that were in hospitals. We had our WebEx technology enabling doctors to talk to patients and stuff and save lives. So I think that's how it impacted me and made me proud to work for collaboration.
Okay. Cleo, how about you? Did it impact the way you worked?
Yeah, so again, obviously we're working from home now, we're virtual, so when the pandemic first started, people weren't really in the office, so if you're not in the office, you can't answer the phone, so that impacted sales. No one's picking up the phone, I can't sell. So so at the beginning, it definitely affected numbers, but as people, started, grabbing their laptops and working from home and things like that and hooking their desk phones up to their office phones at home, sales started to increase. So it definitely impacted numbers at first, but as it grew, numbers started to increase. So.
Okay. So let's give Cisco a shout out. So Cisco tops the 25th annual 100 Best Companies to Work for the second year in a row, right? So, right. So why do you think that is? Let's start with you, Cleo, since you just finished. Why do you think that is, and what do you like, about working with Cisco specifically?
I say the culture and the competitive nature. Obviously, we're all former athletes. We're not going to take no for an answer, so that is why Cisco is at the top of the charts, year in and year out. But definitely the culture. I work with a lot of, I don't necessarily work with a lot of IT geeks. It's a lot of people like me, former athletes. And when you're around people like you, that just brings the culture in to make everything better at the end of the day.
All right. Jasmine, since you have the microphone, what would you say?
I think the networking opportunities, I met Paul, Classy, and you all at the same day, and I was able to come here and speak. I also think that the entrepreneurial spirit of Cisco, Classy does Shakeout, Sip and Slay, there's a lot of opportunities to just go out and be yourself, and Cisco supports you whenever you want to, try something new.
There you go. So Classy, we're gonna pass it to you now there you go. What do you like about working with Cisco or at Cisco?
I like the work-life balance and how Cisco enables you to kind of tap into other things that you're interested in as long as it doesn't take away from your full-time job. So I'll preface it with that, and also you can't have a company that's a competing, so none of what I do is a competition, but what I love most is how Cisco enables me to be my true authentic self. I don't have to put on a mask. I don't feel like I have to code switch as much as if I was at another company. And then I think number one is the work-life balance. I can speak to, Cisco has been in my life since I was a kid, and I saw, because I'm from the Valley, not a lot of parents were able to come to their kids' games. My mom was at every single game. Cisco enabled her to do that, and I'm forever grateful for that. So I think it's the work-life balance that probably is why Cisco is one of the best companies to work for, in the world, and it's been, for the past, 3 years, we've been on some type of chart, so I think that work-life balance is crucial.
Gotcha. Kareem, how do you feel about that?
It sucks being last. Just because all these things is just amazing things of why we work at Cisco, the culture, the work-life balance, the networking. But I guess another thing I can add to that is the people that you work with. all of us, we learn something new every day. And that's because we have 70,000 people that we work with at Cisco. And the one thing that we all do at Cisco is we share knowledge and we reach out to each other. And I have never gotten a no from anybody at Cisco in terms of if I reach out to them and I say, hey, can you help me with this? Or, hey, can I, pick your brain about something? So, in addition to everything that everybody said up here, it's the culture, like Cleo said, of sharing knowledge and being available and people working with each other. That's pretty much why, we are the best and number one.
I like that, okay. So I'm gonna stick with you right quick. How do you, and I'm gonna ask everybody on the panel, and then we'll get to some questions, so go ahead and start getting your mind ready for some questions. How do you brand yourself in the tech industry specifically?
I think it's a little different with me just because I'm technical. So when I come to a meeting, I have to be absolutely prepared. They expect me to be an expert. They expect me to be a SME, a subject matter expert. So before every meeting, I do my work. I do my due diligence. I put everything together. I make a plan, a game plan, so I can keep my brands stable. It only takes one time for somebody to not think you know what you don't know, or they don't think you know what you're talking about. So I would say that, being prepared is one of the best things that you can do to, support your brand and make sure your brand is stable, especially if you're technical like me.
Perfect, Classy, what would you say to it?
I think it's knowing who you are first and then figuring out how you want to be identified at Cisco. So for me, I knew that I wanted to have an intersection between technology and sports. I think like 3 or 4 years ago, I pitched an idea to have Spencer Dinwiddie be in a WebEx marketing campaign. That was the first time that ever had an NBA player. I put together a pitch, raised the money, and then I think that was the catalyst of me now being here today, where we're creating that intersection, that pipeline of athletes into tech, and so now that's how I'm branding myself. But I had to really figure out who I was first before I can then determine how I want people to identify me.
There you go. Jasmine, what about yourself?
My goal is to make sure my customer feels heard, and whatever connections or questions that they have, it's my job to go and get that answer. So I feel like the way I brand myself is I want to be able to, I don't know, I guess I feel like I want the customer to feel connected, and I want them to feel like, we care and they matter. So I feel like that's how I brand myself.
I hear that. Cleo, how do you brand yourself?
Again, kind of to piggyback off of what Jasmine said, just being approachable. Again, I'm in a role where I'm talking to IT managers and IT directors on a daily basis. So I know going into a call that I'm not the smartest on the phone or in the meeting. So I just try to listen to what my customer has a problem with, and I try to just reiterate the problem back to them. Therefore, I know that the customer is being heard, and I try to, again, what Reem said, just try to find that answer to the customer. So just being approachable, again, being likable, that's how I build my brand.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna open it up to questions. Anybody in the audience, I challenged you with a question, so we're gonna start right there. I saw that hand go first, so.
Yes, I have a question for Classy, specifically. I would love to hear about your work with diversity, equity, and inclusion at Cisco.
Yeah, so I actually self-appointed myself the DEI person in my organization because I'm one of the only Black people there, and I was, and I was tired of not looking at anyone else that looked like me in these virtual meetings. So I went to my VP and I said, we need a little bit more diversity here. And so they just allowed me to start focusing. So I was originally focused on just people and operations, but I wanted to double down on that. And I wasn't afraid to talk about what matters to me. And I wish they would have said something like I couldn't focus on that after 2020. So that's pretty much how I kind of started to really dive into the DEI work. I just was tired of it. And so I decided to take a stand to get something that I was sick of.
There you go. And if you look at it, for the larger tech companies, a lot of Black and brown people, African Americans, are maybe 4 to 6% of the actual workforce. So when they say that we are very diverse, sometimes it does not mean literally our demographic. So that is one thing that I think you have been intentional on.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of Black and brown are in the room right now. So that's one thing to think about. And so that diversity piece, now people are seeing value in that, diversity of thought, not just diversity of color, but diversity of thought, diversity of where people come from, and you have a unique selling point. That could be your unique selling point depending on where you come from. So everybody brings their authentic self. And I think companies are really doubling down, and they really started that during the pandemic. But I think it's up to us.
It was more so after George Floyd was murdered.
Yeah, there you go.
It
Right,
wasn't
right,
It
right.
wasn't the corona.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think too, Cisco has an amazing HR organization. Our HR team is here, and they do a lot of DEI work. But in my organization specifically, we weren't doing as much as we needed to. And so we can't just rely on HR to handle all things DEI. If you see a problem in your organization, like, be the change you want to see. And I also challenge organizations, because it was trendy to focus on DEI after a Black man was murdered. How are you then investing in diverse people? Don't just put a diversity and inclusion person there because you have to. Make sure you're actually investing in diverse people. You're going to diverse organizations, you're going to diverse events, and you're actually creating that pipeline. And so that's kind of why I also wanted to do this event. Was I don't want organizations saying we care about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then the organizations still look the same that they looked 10 years ago.
Good point. All right, I saw a hand. I'm gonna start there, and then I'm gonna get to you.
My question is for Classy as well. So, of course, you got Sip and Slay, you got Shakeout, you got Athletes Unite Conference, and then also working a 9 to 5 in tech. What's your formula for managing focus on so many different ideas? I feel like that's a hard thing to do as far as focusing on this and moving to these other ideas.
I don't sleep. No, I'm just kidding. I have to plan my days out, and then I also have to take breaks. So I first created Sip and Slay in the midst of the pandemic because I drink tea all the time, and I was literally like bored in the house. I was in the house bored. And so I just had an idea from one of my friends that said, why don't you just create a tea company? And I said, well, worst comes to worst, I'll drink my own tea. I won't go to the store anymore, and that was the creation of Sip and Slay. But I've really taken a back seat on Sip and Slay to focus on the conference. And although the conference has been 2 years in the making, I wasn't going as hard for the past 2 years as I was for the past 6 months. And then I also found a way to integrate my full-time job at Cisco with the conference. I led with the fact that, okay, Cisco, this is a great opportunity for us to recruit people to come work at Cisco. So then my directors allowed me to kind of split my time, half on the conference and half on my job or half on the conference and half on the job at Cisco. So I just found a way to make it work, but I will say, I'm really tired. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it or anything. I'm really tired, so I have to find a way to, have a team to help support me so I actually can make this sustainable and scalable.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's some tea outside, right? So everybody, please stop by.
Some Glow Girl refreshers and Just Peachy lemonade, and they were made by my beautiful cousin back there. So it's a family business too. So I'm really blessed to have an amazing, amazing family. I know my aunt probably wouldn't want me to admit, but this is her hotel. Erica Qualls Beatty, she's the GM of the Atlanta Marriott Marquis and a bunch of other hotels. And so I have an amazing family that really pour into me. So although it looks like I'm doing so much, I have the best family in the world to help support me.
Oh, very nice, very nice. You gotta give her a shout out for real. There you go, there you go. All right, yeah. So I'm gonna start with Jasmine because you literally have the youngest, closest to playing age, I think, on the panel. So we'll start with Jasmine if you don't mind addressing
Honestly,
the crave.
Yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow because obviously, you've been playing sports all your life. You've been training to go to college and then, professionally. So it's for me, you know, I work out like every day for like 2 hours, not gonna lie, because like, it's still, you know, in there. But kind of applying it to work, so making it a competition, like, you know, for me, taking the PMP and being the youngest person who has the PMP, or, you know, in my cohort, I was the youngest person in the cohort. So like, it's always focus on trying to be the best you. So I kind of transferred that into what makes me the best me.
So I'm gonna go to Cleo since you played professional, so you could talk to that if you don't mind.
Most definitely. A lot of people don't realize, you know, depression is real. You know, we grew up playing the sport we love, and then just like that, you can't play it no more. You know what I mean? So I would say for me, reaching out to guys like this, like, you know, Kareem and Boone, because, you know, I went through a phase where it was like, well, what's next? You know, I can't throw or catch a football anymore, so what's next? So I would say, you know, your circle, you know, reaching out to guys like that and just having that talk. Because we keep a lot in, you know, we don't, as athletes, you know, we don't speak on everything. But for me, I would just say, you know, keeping a close circle. And, you know, I feel like guys in your circle, we all want to see each other succeed, so they'll lead you in the right direction. For me, personally.
Sounds good. So Kareem, I'm gonna do a quick. So Kareem and I, we still played adult league basketball, and a quick story. I was guarding him. We literally go hard at each other, and I was literally guarding him, and he tore his Achilles like right in front of me, and he thought I kicked him. So, so literally, he literally has hung it up. I still play. Like, I still think I play. I still have sustained a lot of injuries, and he tells me like, dog, it's time to give it up. But I still crave it. But Kareem, can you speak on how, you know, from playing at a high level, how do you still
This
crave
guy
it?
knows me. You literally just stole my talk track. So I would say I never lost the drive, man. Like, even when I was working for 12 years, starting in career, like, I was still hooping. But I'll tell you, I broke my hip. I tore my ACL and my meniscus. I tore my Achilles. The Achilles was it. That pain was unbearable. So I really, at that time, it's just like, you got to swallow the pill, like, and be like, hey, man. Or, you know, it's like, I got to work. Like, I got to work every day. But it was fortunate enough that I worked at Cisco that I could stay home for 3 months with my foot up and still work. But it's like, I can't keep doing that. So after a certain time, like, you have to just be realistic with yourself and say, hey, is this really going to be what I do every single day, night in and night out? And if that's not the answer to your question, then it's like, hey, I need to start trying to figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to maneuver into my next role or what I want to do day in and night out.
There you go. Good answer. So we got time for about one more question. We'll do it right there, and then.
Can I steal this, bro?
Go ahead, Dave.
Financial literacy. Period. I wish I knew what I knew now in terms of like financial literacy and knowing how to, you know, maneuver with your you know, being, you know, knowing how you do with your financials and everything else. Like, that is like the one thing that I would, you know, tell myself like 12, 15 years ago.
I want to preface this in saying I'm still 23. So,
So what did you tell yourself
What I tell myself-
yesterday?
honestly, I tell myself that it's okay to be different, and it's okay. Like, my background in psychology, and, you know, my like college experience wasn't the best, so especially through sports. So it's okay to stand out, and it's okay to be different, and take that difference and make yourself, you know, known, and do something with it.
I like that. What I would say is leverage your network. Literally, you have created a network. As being an athlete, you have created a network amongst yourself where you can literally pivot to whatever you want to do because there are so many resources. You've already set yourself up if you've gotten ahead of, let's say you got a scholarship. You're already 100K ahead of said person, you know, who had to take out a loan or had to pay. So you're already there. So how do you leverage what you've created in your community into what you want it to be, and literally be creative. However you feel like you want to step out, and then when you want to ask for your favor, then you tap into the people who matter most and say, hey, we have this idea, I have this idea, would you be down? And most people are just gonna ride with you just because the fact that you are you, and you might be their teammate, they might have played against you, you know, you never know. But the amount of respect that you gain as an athlete makes people naturally attract to you. So whatever entrepreneurial plans that you want to create, I would say do that now, and you have 10 years to figure it out at least. Like, you know, I think, shout out to Ant Red. Ant Red, he literally went on the entrepreneurial path a year or two ago, and he said, you know what, I'm gonna give myself a year. I always have a fallback. You know, I can always get a job, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bet on myself for a year, and we're gonna figure it out. And if it looks good to move forward, I will continue to pursue. And if it looks kind of a little shaky, I might get a job to, you know, find that financial stability, but I'm still gonna pursue what I want and love. So that's what I would say. Literally leverage your network, throw ideas at the wall, literally whatever you're passionate about, pursue that. What would you say? And then we're gonna wrap it up after Mr. Cooper.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Time's up.
Man. All right, well, our time's up. Thanks again, everybody. This has been the Athletes in Tech panel. Again, step outside, grab some sip and slay tea, and get ready, and let's sip and slay, and then we'll just mingle outside. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you around.